Well, thank you very much, and it's always handy to have a little bit of colour and movement as we present, so it's nice to know that it's live and kicking this morning, the presentation, so to speak. And look, it's very topical, isn't it, to be talking about the environment and environmental awareness on the day after the federal government's direct action policy has been passed through the Senate, or as it's more commonly known, climate inaction. And I suppose it's one of the reasons I'm really keen to speak today is to try and inspire people in the room to do a little more about the environment and about care for the climate. The direct program that we're going to talk about a little later in this session is the Da Vinci Project, and it's a high challenge inquiry-based program for Year 9 students at Albert Park College. But I have to give it a little bit of context because this interest, this passion, if you like, for the environment stretches back almost 20 years, and I still recall the first time that the issue of climate change and the importance of the environment was sort of driven into my consciousness, if you like, and it was a lecture at Melbourne University, and it seemed like an unlikely place to have such a transformation in your thinking, I guess. And so we're sitting in a very traditional lecture theatre, and the lecturer, and I'm embarrassed to say I can't recall his name, but he left me with two very clear messages. And one of the reasons is that he was quite theatrical in the way he presented, because he entered the room and the first thing he said is that if you're over 50, leave the room. I'm not suggesting we do that here today, and indeed I'd have to leave the podium myself. But at the time it was quite a radical beginning, and a few people shuffled out of the room. And secondly, he said if you did not have a child, you must leave the room. And so once again, the audience shrank a little more, and we started to wonder, what other parameters he was going to put around his presentation. But his intent was really clear. He wanted to drive home the point that this issue was immediate, that we needed to act now, and that its impact was on our children. And so he really drove home that point very powerfully on that day. And the second really important point that he made is the importance that we have as educational leaders on this issue. And the point he made is that Australia is not a particularly religious society, and that I think over the last few decades, a lot of the institutions that drive societal change have been weakened, if you like. But the one strong force that remains is the power of education. And our opportunity is that we reach out to every single young person in the nation. And he said that's an incredibly powerful force that we have, very, very powerful opportunity we have to enact change. And so that was really if you like, the beginning of A, my awareness, and B, passion for doing things around the environment on that issue. And this has been reinforced again and again, and most recently, most powerfully, I think, by Barack Obama at his recent presentation at the United Nations. And he acknowledged that we recognise, and I'm just quoting him here, we recognise our role in creating this problem. And I know he's talking about nations, but I think it applies equally to every person in the room, I think. We recognise our role in creating this problem. We embrace our responsibility to combat it. We will do our part. But we can only succeed in combating climate change if we are joined in this effort by every nation, developed and developing alike. Nobody gets a pass. And see, Obama was very, very clear in his agenda, and we were talking about the Ebola crisis actually, and he was really making the point that climate change remains the greatest problem confronting the world. And so I guess in terms of certainly our practice at Albert Park, we're saying, well, if it's the biggest problem confronting the world, perhaps we should try and do something about it. So since that time 20 years ago, throughout my career, I've tried to infuse any school that I've been associated with a focus on the environment environmental awareness and action is a core value in everything we do. Indeed, in establishing Albert Park College, one of our core values is simply that we care for the environment, and we try and live that every day. And we live that. Often it's a built solution, is it not? You know, whether we're recycling water or placing solar panels on the roof, that's certainly a powerful way to send a message to our kids and to our communities that we care about the environment. And in the past, there's been lots of programs that focus on, say, waste reduction, for example, particularly primary-based environmental programs. But for secondary school students, I feel it just simply does not resonate. And so to really impact on secondary school students, we needed a different way, and this program is partly about that. The Da Vinci, in fact, I'll put it more simply. I think if you look at a secondary school student in the yard, you can see the same student drop a wrapper on the ground and watch them on the television on the weekend chaining themselves to a tree to save a forest. So that's sort of the contrast, if you like. How do we capture their passions? How do we capture what they're passionate and what they really believe in, and really make a difference in terms of their appreciation of the environment? So the Da Vinci project is designed to do exactly that. It's a Year 9 program built around the broad theme of the environment. It's inquiry-based, rich tasks, heavy in the use of ICT. There's a digital portfolio required from every student. And essentially what we've done, we've tried to integrate we integrate the teaching of science and humanities. So there's a research base, there's an educational grounding, if you like, in what we do. But we ask the kids to respond to what they learn in an arts-based environment, in a performing or visual arts manner. So we want them to become passionate about this issue, to write original music, to produce original artwork, etc., and to really demonstrate what they've learnt in a really creative and innovative manner. I think I might pause for a minute and just let the kids talk about how the program impacts on them. So this is an evening that we run each semester. The students present their work not only to their parents but to the broader school community, and that's the context for this 2-minute
subjects of science, humanities and art all together, or performance all together, and focusing on the environment.
Found out that the teachers weren't going to help us. It was more an individual project. I was a bit frightened by that, but during the end it actually got me more confident, and I didn't think I was capable of half the things that I was able to do.
Number of tasks were artistic ones, not only our final art piece, but a number of the other projects, even some of the small class tasks. Many required artistic responses as opposed to analytical solutions. Challenging as it was, it encouraged us to broaden our understanding of the environment and perceive more than the obvious. But most of all, it taught us to use creativity to respond to science.
My big question was, what would people really be willing to give up for the electricity they use every day?
My big question is how to make Albert Park College more eco-friendly.
My big question was, how does habitat conservation affect land management?
Left to find things out for myself. I felt like the teachers trusted us a lot more, and that though there was a lot more responsibility placed on our shoulders, I felt like we were doing something good. We were actually learning, and we were learning for ourselves, which we would need in the future.
canned applause, but nevertheless. I think the message is fairly clear, and the impact it had on our students' learning is fairly clear. We're also really fortunate that in the last budget round, campus, if you like, a former Army or Naval drill hall and historic post office, both heritage listed. And the aim is to take that program, that semester-length program, extend it, make it a year-long program for our Year 9 students, and create, if you like, an environmental hub, you know, a melting pot, if you like, of creating new curriculum and new ideas around the environment that we can share with other schools. And that redevelopment will be completed at the end of next year. So that's a very exciting development, if you like, that's grown from the original concept. I just want to finish by, I guess, urging people to really engage in a program of environmental awareness. And I note that on each table there's a program or a flyer looking for expressions of interest for a program called the Carbon Challenge. And so that's one example in which people can take part. I'm sure many schools are writing and developing their own curriculum around the environment. And this is another organisation that I visited in Sydney recently. And the aim here is to get 1 million women on board to reduce their carbon footprint and to fight for the issues of climate change. And then sitting underneath that program is a desire to get 100,000 girls to join that initiative. And they're based in New South Wales, but we're hosting the launch of their program at Albert Park College around the middle of next year. So we're hoping to get two girls as ambassadors, if you like, for to fight the issue of climate change across Victoria as we go into next year. And I'll finish with Obama's speech, and I know he's a little preachy, it's a little lofty. I'm not Obama, obviously, but it's probably a nice way to end. And he finished, I think, his speech at the United Nations with words like this: "Our citizens keep marching," and I hope that's true in Australia, by the way, that our citizens, we keep marching and fighting for climate change. "We cannot pretend that we do not hear them. We have to answer the call. We cannot condemn our children and their children to a future that is beyond their capacity to repair." Thank you.